if you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody. Who do you want? Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Mega power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling, dealing.
Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of Talk 'em in the Building, a wrestling podcast where we focus solely on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and of course we have to pontificate upon the promo. I'm Adrian. You already know it's no BS coming from me. I'm joined by the bros as always. We got Greg, we got Adelaide. How are you guys feeling?
Yo, Mania week, baby.
Yes, sir.
How do you not feel good about this? It's Mania
There we
week.
go. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. What's up, Adelaide?
I'm great, Adrian, and yeah, like Greg said, I mean, can't be happy around this time of year, and honestly, it's an abundance of riches. But I'm really looking forward to getting into it tonight with you guys, and yeah, what a week!
Awesome. Well, folks, if this is your first time checking us out, once again, we're the Talk 'em in the Building podcast. We just talk about the promos. We don't do an in-ring breakdown. We don't talk about that stuff. We leave that to the other podcasts. We specifically focus on the segments that build up to the big matches. And because that's something that all three of us have always been in love with. And that's part of the reason why our review system, we go on a scale of Dusties in honor of one of the greatest promos in the business, Dusty Rhodes, rest in peace. And that's, again, why we made this podcast. So thank you again for checking us out. Like, comment, subscribe, intothebuilding.com, where you can find any past episodes, because we have some great conversations about these. But gentlemen, like you guys already said, man, we're a few days from WrestleMania. Past episodes, we have pretty much talked about some of the big matches, some of the big moments leading up to WrestleMania. Hell, we have an episode right around the corner where we talk about our Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania matches. Please check that out. But gentlemen, this episode, we're going to talk about one match in particular, and I think it's pretty polarizing still, even though they've started to crank up a little bit, and that's with our World Heavyweight Champion, the Ring General, Gunther, versus the Royal Rumble winner, Jey Uso, the Yeet Man. So before we get into it, I want to know, let's go ahead and break the ice really quickly, gentlemen. When it comes to Jey Uso, he's been on the rise, and I would like to think the fuel behind that decision was a simple word, 4 letters. Hell, it's in the dictionary at this point. That's what they're telling us. I tried it in Scrabble and it didn't accept it. So clearly it's not updated. The software is not updated, but we're talking about Yeet. So Greg, let's go to you first, man. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on such a simple word driving a character?
I would argue it's not just a word, though.
Okay.
Because his star, I hate to say it, but when Jimmy got hurt during the pandemic and he got put in that match with Roman, he rose to the challenge.
He did.
And none of us saw that. None of us. We were all like, why is he challenging for this belt?
Yep.
Like, he's never challenged for nothing. He's always just been in a tag team, except at one point they were split into different brands and they had to bring them back because neither one of them did anything, Jimmy nor Jey. And so he kind of, his star went on the rise there. And we saw flashes during that program with Roman of, man, this dude can be a star. And then he did catch fire, with the whole Yeet piece. And it's more than just an entrance. He can go. The dude can go. He's more than a super kick and a punch.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like he's connected with kids on a different level. So
Yep.
my thing with this is when you say that about the word, there's a 3-letter word several years ago that I will argue put one other guy over, and I
Of
will say
course.
it put him over, and that's Daniel
Definitely.
Bryan.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
and he's never been as over as he was during the Yes movement.
That's a fact.
And it was all about the Yes. I don't think Daniel had the connection with the kids that Uso has. Jey has something else, something more electric, something more, and I'm not trying to not continuously comparing him to Daniel, but
Right.
I just think he's more than Yeet. Like he's
Right.
got something else to him that I know he connects with me because I cheer for the underdog, and I'm like I want to see him do well, and like so I think it's more than that, but I think the entrance has something to do with it. It's more of a party atmosphere. It's like when you watch him come out and he embraces it, it's like he doesn't control the crowd almost controls him.
We've seen
it's
that.
fun.
We've seen that. Yeah.
And what's interesting I know I kind of jump off topic for a second, but
Yeah.
and this is not me trying to down somebody else, so before everybody flips out on us, I remember listening to Eric Bischoff a couple years ago, and he was breaking down AEW, and he said, when I watch AEW, it's like a party. And he said that he goes, the crowd is so into it. This is when SmackDown and Raw were very stale.
Yes.
And he was like, the crowd's into it. He goes, even though I don't agree with everything that's going on, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Like when I watch it and I show a casual fan this crowd at AEW, I want to be there.
Yep.
That's what I see when Uso comes out.
That's it. Yep. That's
like,
it. That's
when
it.
they had whatever crowd it was had their lights on their phones out. They're out there having fun. Nobody else has ever had an encore. Like they stopped the music. They're like, no, keep it going. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that ain't planned.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just more than that.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I was going to say, man, honestly, that's really what draws me toward his character and the energy, because from a visual standpoint, you're seeing all of these people going absolutely apeshit over Yeet throughout the show, especially during his entrance. It is perfect that he's walking through the crowd with the people.
Yeah.
And you see everyone going crazy. You see a little kid going. You see Travis Scott following him.
Wow.
Little busy there, but it's that kind of energy. As a viewer watching on TV, the next time WWE's in your town, you want to be a part of that. So yeah, that's definitely a great part of it. Ali, I have a different question for you. But when it comes to Jey Uso, it's a lot of division on the IWC as always, right? But thank you guys for the ideas and content and all that through your petty arguments. Jey Uso is getting a lot of flack, being it's a lot of negativity around Jey Uso as well as positivity. But when it comes to the negativity, we're getting a lot of people saying, well, he's not main event Jey Uso. He shouldn't be in the main event. He should be in the main event. He's not a good wrestler. He cuts a horrible promo. It's all of these factors. But for some reason, he's over. He's over as hell. So what are your thoughts? Why is Jey Uso so over at this point, in your opinion?
Let me start with this. I'm gonna call back to Greg's point to invoke the name of one Daniel Bryan. The fans are fickle. Let's just call it what it is.
Yes,
okay,
very much so.
Okay, if we look at metrics, there's all this, dialogue with AEW and that they're still following the Death Rider storyline. Why? Because according to Tony Khan, they're following metrics. The same way Triple H has said, we follow, trends. We look at our internal data. You best believe that Yeet shirt, those Yeet glasses. Just look at the most signature thing about pro wrestling in the live audience, right, is the crowd participation. You get that at like major movies that are like tentpole movies. You might get that at a stage show, but it's frowned upon. You know, crowd participation is as old as pro wrestling is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has them in the palm of his hand. They'll mimic his movement. So that's from the business part, participation side. When I hear it, to the question you're asking, is as a pro wrestler, as this whole package as the main event. First of all, weren't we touting them as brothers for having these like Hall of Fame matches with the New Day not too long ago?
Absolutely.
Right. So you're going to tell me this guy that,
yeah,
right? Like every time they wrestled, it was magic. So you're telling me this guy who was part of that, quartet there is suddenly not going to be a good wrestler. Well, that's point one, right? So let's put that to the side, right? And we're talking wrestling quality. Let's kind of get away for that. There's a place for everything. I think he's a very incredibly talented wrestler at this point.
Definitely.
Another piece, he's never been given a spotlight like this. So give the dude some time to grow.
Definitely.
I mean, here we have so many other people. People are having to jump, on a dime on opportunities. But you know what? He's learned from the best. The same way that they gave Solo a chance. It kind of found its middle ground, and he'll probably get another shot down the line.
Yeah.
But to give this guy that chance, and look, the fact of the matter, the people are speaking. That's all that matters at the end of the day. My opinion, your opinion, and no one's opinion matters except how full those crowds are and how empty those merchandise stands are.
That's it.
And all that is happening at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Greg, you have anything to add to that?
I mean, you sit back and look at them, and we all want something new until we get it.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, oh, well, that's really not what I wanted. But everybody lost their minds when he lost the belt right back. When he lost the IC, but he won the IC belt. He loses it, in a month and a half, 2 months, whatever it was, pretty quick. And it's like, but now you flipped out. And so that when people flip out, that's part of that metric you're talking about.
Definitely.
Oh, okay. Now people are invested in him. And Adelaide, you talk about how him and Jimmy, putting on insane matches.
Yeah.
Adrian, you talked about how we have that new show now called Rushmore's of Wrestling. At some point, we're going to do one on tag teams, and there's an argument to be made that they're on that.
Definitely.
Yep.
And can't he be Shawn Michaels from the Rockers? And I'm not saying Jimmy's Marty. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying
someone
that
has to
Jey,
be Marty.
Yeah.
Well, can't Jey become Shawn? Like, you got to think about, he kind of got that little run.
Right.
Let's see how he does with Roman. Okay, he did good. Now we'll put him back in tag team. Okay, now he gets this little singles run. Oh, wow, the crowd loves him. Let's put a title on him. It's the formula we've used with everybody else.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the same formula that we did with Shawn and so many others.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we tested it out. He loses the belt. Okay, cool. People were invested. Let's shock the world, and he wins the Royal Rumble. Of all the Royal Rumbles, that was the perfect one for him to win, to have an underdog win it. This was the year.
This was it.
Because we have a huge, long runway. We had Cena coming back, making Cena have to still fight for that next chance. There's a whole storyline behind that part.
Yep.
So, I'm in for it.
Definitely.
I'm in for the ride.
Definitely. But we're definitely looking forward to that match. I don't care if it's the opener. I don't care if it's the last show of the card. It's been a wonderful story. And that's brings us to the next point, gentlemen. These two gentlemen, Gunther and Jey, have faced each other 3 times prior. And Gunther's won all 3 of them. I don't know about you guys, but Saturday Night Main Event, I thought it was signed, sealed, delivered. Jey was going to win because the Yeet was at an all-time high, at least in my opinion then. And it just seemed like, man, this is a perfect time on broadcast television for them to do a title change. And what happens? He loses. And there were so many people thinking, oh, this is just going to ruin the momentum. Look where we are now. It's still hot. And it's even more hot now because they took the time to add elements. They took the time to involve supporting characters like Jimmy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but I think that quick week or two of Jimmy Uso being on Monday Night Raw, that was the gasoline for this feud.
Oh yeah.
Because once Jimmy and Gunther got into the ring, and Gunther bloodied that man.
Oh, that was
not
good.
only bloodied him,
Yeah.
but handcuffed his brother. His brother
Watch.
to in the corner, helpless, to watch his brother just get mauled by Gunther, and Gunther celebrating with blood all over him. Like the visual, especially for WWE, when it comes to blood, when blood happens, it matters, and that's one thing I can say I will give them credit for. I know we make fun of Jon Moxley for bleeding everywhere. He hasn't done it in a while, so credit to him. But when a wrestler bleeds, it should absolutely matter. But Greg, what were your thoughts on that segment or those 2 weeks where Jimmy slaps Gunther? I know that went viral of how loud and real that slap was, to them going to a match and this happening. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think even leading into it, it was kind of positioned that Gunther's the bully.
Mm-hmm.
Gunther was the one. Hey, I've already beaten you. Why am I wrestling you again? And in my mind, like when I kind of, because none of these stories are original, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about Brock, and I put Gunther in that category of a Brock Lesnar. That now, dude, I've already beaten you. Why? And we've seen that with Brock in the past. And then he comes back around and he loses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the bully who has the upper hand that now, the kid who's being bullied has to stand up to him. So it's time for the bully. Does he back down or does he take it to the next level? And that's what Gunther did. He took it to a next level. But he took a page out of what Roman did. So this all to me all connects. Go back to when Roman had that I Quit match. How did he make him say I quit?
Because his brother.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's right.
That's
so
true.
It's the same thing. So what if we really think about that storytelling? At that point, Jey said I quit because what he was doing to Jimmy. This time, he doesn't say I quit. He uses it as motivation. Back then, he backed down to Roman, becomes his lackey, becomes his sidekick, becomes part of the bloodline, and we know where that all goes. But think about the evolution of this character. At that moment, Jimmy gets his ass whipped, and he bows down to the bully.
Yeah.
That's a
now
good
we're
point.
full circle to where he stands up to the bully. So to me, you asked about the blood itself. I thought it was well done. I was shocked. I was surprised. I thought Jey was awesome in this whole situation.
Yes.
You could see that there was emotion. There was like, he didn't know what to do. It was a helpless emotion. I love the fact that Gunther didn't touch him. He just let him watch. Like, he didn't go there and smack him. He didn't do nothing. Kind of like, you just sit here and watch. And had him just far enough away out of reach. I mean, there's so many small subtleties.
Yeah, it's a lot of subtleties.
And with that blood on his chest, he was just like, look, this is what I'm going to do to you. And this is your fault. You chose me. You won the Royal Rumble. You chose me. This is what you get. And I thought it was excellent. And this was a classic storytelling, but also the old school phrase that they used to always say is red means green. And this was a red means green. Blood means money. And this was a money segment.
That's a fact. And a great point on one thing that stood out to me for this feud. It's been a lot of well done subtleties. You could tell it's a lot of smart people that have their hands in it. And one of the promos that I will bring, we'll get to it, y'all. We promise. One of the promos that I bring, it's a subtle change. Now, I don't know if y'all noticed it, but we're going to watch it, and I'm going to see if you notice it. But before we get there, out of the lead, I want your thoughts on the following week. The following week, Jey Uso comes out. Gunther's dressed to the T as always. He's one of the best dressed men in professional wrestling, in my opinion.
Yep.
He's out there, he's bragging. Jey comes out, and Jey tells him flat out, you know, I've been doubting myself. I'm almost scared of you. But because of what happened last week, because of what you did to my brother, something clicked, something changed, and I'm no longer scared of you. And basically, I want to say he says something to the point of, I pray to God already. I already apologize to God for the man that I'm going to become. It was something he got there, and I was like, oh, okay. So I want to know your opinion, Ali, when it comes to that change, that character change of motivation. What are your thoughts on how Jey executed it?
I think he played into his own humanity, right? He played into this idea of, all right, I've literally seen my brother beaten to a pulp. How do you respond as a man of conviction, as a man that, or I'm going to try to separate myself from the entrance, because even that's distinct, right? And that approach. And they positioned Gunther in such a way that no matter what, that dude's a made man, right? That dude's a villain. They could never turn him, babyface, and he'd be fine, right? He could be that forever, bad guy. But here they position him more as this threat to his own, I guess, manhood in a way, because here I am, I'm letting this happen. It was beyond my control. But more than that, you connect to the audience how? By showing some vulnerability, right?
Right.
Yeah, we have all kinds of wrestlers, they've been like the Superman, but the more modern wrestler at least shows you some sense of some weakness.
Right.
And he acknowledges it. And in 2025, I'm more apt to believe it, because I like to believe that even the wrestling promo, even these wrestling exchanges have evolved to be less cartoonish.
Right.
And this felt less cartoonish, right? This felt real. This is that, you could take out the wrestling context and still make it a real conversation. It probably wouldn't sound too different. So in that sense, I'll be honest, I wasn't one of those that saw him winning Royal Rumble being that. I didn't think he was it. I really, and I think it's because we ourselves had talked about everybody else but him winning.
Right.
I don't think he was even in our top 10, to be honest.
Greg picked him to win.
Oh yeah, sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, but
sorry.
And this is the reason why I'm asking you that, because both of us had that same perception of that
I'll
character.
speak for myself and myself. That's it.
Yeah.
He wasn't in my top 10, and why? Because I didn't think they were positioning themselves to be that way. Right? They had so many other, stalwarts there. But I'll say this: the blood, the brother, and that final promo, that just everything about that, I'm in.
Awesome.
I'm in. I think he is going to be. I'm not going to say a Shawn Michaels. I know we were sort of positioning that or thinking he could be that guy, more from differences in the tag team. But quite honestly, I think he could be a real contender there. He can be like in the same vein as beyond even a Drew McIntyre, because I know he's gotten lost in the fold. But someone they can consistently count on, and someone that, if the momentum stays the same, hey, look, we have this whole background of the the tribal chief and Samoan legacy. He's up there. He's gonna be the old timer at some point. He will be one of those that they look up to. So I think his future is incredibly bright, and it's really just how he evolves it from here, because it has to be some evolution from the party guy, basically.
That bloodline stimulus package still alive and well.
Yes.
But let's go ahead and get into this week. I brought two promos, both from the competitors of this World Heavyweight Championship match. First, let's talk about the champion, Gunther.
Went too far with Jimmy. You lost control. Jey, trust me one thing. In 37 years of my life, I have never lost control. And 2 weeks ago, when I took a bath in your brother's blood, I was in full control, and I loved it. And Jey, I want you to go pray to the Lord. Thank him that I was in control 2 weeks ago. Because if it wouldn't have been, I would have drowned you both in Jimmy's blood.
Well, that was the champion, Gunther,
Yeah.
as intense as ever. Now, I brought that portion of the promo because at the beginning, the crowd was more focused on saying yeet, not really listening to what Gunther said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all noticed. As soon as Gunther told Michael Cole, like, piss off or scram,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked into the camera to talk to Jimmy. I mean, talk to Jey. For him to look in the camera, look and talk to Jey. That's when the crowd turned. Really, like, that's when the crowd felt ignored or not heard, and they were just like, man, screw this guy. And that's when he started cooking. That's when he's talking about bathing both of you and your brother in your brother's blood, and even calling back to the previous week where Jimmy said he was talking to God. And
Yeah.
Gunther said, you talk to your God and you tell him this. Like, I don't know about you guys, but out of league, man, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that.
I mean, I was popping over here. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it goes back to your point. It's like they got a lot of smart people back there. They got a lot of good writers. And for years, they didn't let the writers do what they're paid to do, which is, they got Hollywood writers up in there.
Right.
know. I'm not saying this was purely written by a writer, but hey, you're working around a very creative set. We talked about the creativity backstage, physically, and these guys are, super athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the creativity just in word, right? And here it's just it's poetic, it's scary, it's the prose of a diabolical serial murderer in a way,
Mm-hmm.
someone who enjoys pain, who at our worst we would be shaking afterward, we'd be drowning in adrenaline, and he's in full control.
Mm-hmm.
And he's testing. He's like, I was almost waiting. I don't know if later he does the line or I imagined it, but it's like, what would it look like if I lost control? Like, this is me in control. How scary can I be? And what am I capable of?
He's basically suggesting that. He's basically
right.
telling
He's
you,
implying,
like,
right? That's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then that's, when as a character, clearly, he knows his character very well, but you can play the crowd into saying, this isn't my max. Like, this is me on the low setting. Piss me off enough, we'll get there. And you're pissing me off. Is effectively what he's saying through the promo. But man, yeah, that line about bathing in blood, or I would have bathed in both of you. It's just drowning in your own blood. I'm
cooking.
Like,
just
like how the imagery is amazing.
Awesome. Now, Greg, you're our resident historian, and I have this question for you. Looking at that promo from Gunther, that performance, do you have any wrestlers of the past that you would say, hey, that I could kind of see that of Gunther just there?
That's hilarious you asked me that, because that's exactly what I was thinking about when I'm watching that. And it's Ivan Koloff. If you go back to when he was with Nikita, against Dusty, against the Road Warriors, that was Ivan Koloff. 100%. Intelligent, articulate, but don't get it twisted. Old school pro wrestling promo. That's what that is. That's him yelling. That's him raising his voice, but still under control.
Right. And that's the key.
And
that's the key.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I hear when I'm watching that. I'm like, man, this is just straight Russians from back in the 80s, man. I loved it. Let me touch on one thing when you said that about him going back and touching on the week before.
Yeah.
This is a small snippet of that change of guard we have. We had heard under He Who Must Not Be Named that he never gave the wrestling fans credit for remembering.
Yeah.
And Triple H is like, no, they remember everything. And that's what we see sprinkled in all these shows. But that promo right there is just perfect, because it still gives you that recap, but it's still taking little snippets of Jay's promo and bringing it into that one. And in all honesty, which maybe we should actually put a link down below of one of Ivan Koloff's promos, and he did the same stuff back then.
Send
He would take Dusty's words and throw them right back at him,
it in there.
and it was wild. So that was, yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm watching, and I
cool.
love it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I asked you that, because I know we're gonna put it to this is synergy, gentlemen. This is us potting. This is us potting. All right, let's another subtlety. You were talking about changing of the guard. The wrestler speaking to his opponent directly to the camera is something that's more recent, but I love it because it's realistic. It makes me feel like
Yeah.
these guys actually have an issue. It's not the pro wrestling, blue screen in the background, even though we all love those and we pop for those.
Yeah.
The green screen I'm in the background, that's more, it's real. That really seems like, okay, we go from what appears to be Michael Cole being in there to be the mean gene of the interview to him saying, scram, I'm going to look at the camera. I'm not acknowledging a soul in this arena. I'm looking directly into the camera and I'm talking to my opponent. And it's simple, but beautiful. Beautiful.
So, one thing about that, we'll go back to the week before.
Uh-huh.
On SmackDown, we had Wade Barrett in the ring doing his interview.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Very different, but now what we've done is we've set a stage that now we're gonna do some in ring. We've had it with Penta, we had it with a few others, a little bit outside the ring, right after a match. So we started to set a stage that now we're gonna have that post match interview or that in ring interview. So now let's fast forward to Michael Cole, and even though the live audiences, the way this played out was so perfect. Like I would love to know, was it actually planned for Michael to do it that way or not? Because Gunther played off that crowd.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He absolutely did.
And he just said, get out of here or whatever. But Michael Cole, from the moment that music hit, him and Pat McAfee sold that.
Yeah.
He goes, I thought it was later in the show.
Right,
It's like,
right,
that's not on the format.
Right.
And Pat's like, well, what are you gonna do? He's like, I guess I'm gonna go up there. I mean, like, it's like almost like a side conversation we're not supposed to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Then he goes in, and this is where you had to sit back and start having that argument of Cole being the GOAT. Because I don't think there's anybody in the past 30 years who could have pulled off that segment as believable as he did.
30 years.
And I'm talking JR too. And I'm talking Shivani. I'm talking JR. Like JR, to me, he could do it with certain people, but sometimes he felt a little bit too active. This felt like, I think because the reins have been taken off. Right?
Exactly.
So
He seems
now,
way
so I
more
have
natural.
to put it in context, but I have to say it from that perspective. But you got the perfect match over here of McAfee selling it, Cole selling it, Cole going in there, and he's afraid of Gunther, so he sold that part too.
Definitely.
Like this, I'm out. So and when Gunther was like, just basically took that microphone, was like, get out. He was like, I'm out, and he was gone. And I thought that was a nice subtlety that was on there as well.
Good points.
Yeah.
Good points. Adelie, anything before we move on to our challenger?
No, I didn't want to cut off Greg because I agreed so much with what he said, but to that end, this has also been someone who's been at a top, operating at a top tier level, like you said, that has the reins off, but more even at a layer. If you look at Cole now and he's done interviews, post Vince, the dude knows wrestling.
Absolutely.
He's not just in this, he's not, I mean, I guess they're all in the WWE bubble, but nowadays he understood there was a world outside of WWE, so he's comfortable not insulting our intelligence. I think to that, and I think that why that segment plays so well was there's clearly a change in format. And if anyone's ever, been in an interview or, just been in TV production, that's like the worst thing that you can do. Cause like scripts are off, timing's off, lighting's, even the camera lens that you might be using is off. So to go rogue like that, it was cool because he was drawing on all the technical cues. Like, oh my gosh, this is. And again, I'll go back to this. And this is the only point I want to make. Is it goes back to Triple H ultimately being this fan of understanding. And I guess I love it because when we're going through school, we think, why do we have to learn all these formats? Well, the same reason you go to you watch wrestling and you learn every format, because then you can break them. And now he's getting this comfortability where our expectations are broken, and we're in for the ride because we've never experienced it.
That's it.
We've been there for the banal, for the okay, there's going to be a 2-minute segment, they're going to walk down the ramp. I've sat with my wife where I like, this is going to happen XYZ, and I get it right. She looks at me like, how? I was like,
right.
I've been watching too long. It's how,
Right.
And that is challenged now. And even in little segments like this, they'll get nominated for an Emmy one day.
I think that's part of the reason why they're putting those names at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Finally.
they did that to me the other night when I think it was AJ and Karrion, and I was like, oh, okay, they're about to go to commercial. Wait, hold up, maybe not.
Right.
Because I got up to go get something, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. And it just threw me off because you're so used to, all right, double down, something happens, all right, we're going straight to commercial, and it's like, oh, dang, all right, well, we're not going, no, not yet. All right, another 30 seconds or so. Okay, cool, there we go. But it was cool because I love the unexpectedness.
Definitely. All right, let's get to the challenger. We got Jey Uso later in the evening on Monday Night Raw. Jey Uso comes out. Same entrance. Everyone's going crazy. Comes down, but he's focused. He's not partying. He's all business. Even though everyone's going crazy, losing their minds and stuff, and doing the Yeet dance and cheering and all that, he's looking focused. He makes his way down. He stands on the announce table. And just because everyone's going crazy and screaming one more time, you got to play the song one more time, right? So he gets back to business. Now he's dancing a little bit, but he's more of a, like, I'm with y'all, but I'm serious. I'm with y'all. I got to fight, but I'm, that sort of thing. And then he cuts this promo.
All right, check it. I said what I had to say to Gunther last week. But I really wanted to come out here and holler at y'all. Yeah, my peoples. What up, Sacktown? My mama out here somewhere in the crowd. She out here somewhere in the crowd. But look, Goose. Everybody keep on asking me, Oos, Jay, where your mind at? Am I crashing out? Hell yeah, I'm crashing out. But I'm locked in. Locked in for me. Locked in for my family. I'm locked in for y'all. Check it out though. Hey, hold up. Listen to Gunther out here talk. You know what that made me feel like? He mad. Nah. You afraid. Yeah, Gunther, you afraid. You afraid I'm gonna whoop your ass in front of 60,000 people for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania.
Greg, I'm coming to you first with this one, man. There's something about Jey Uso's cadence that throws off a lot of people. It's not very structured at all. It's not very structured. It's all over the place, to be honest. But it kind of fits his character, kind of fits his background. What are your thoughts on the call and response promo? Because we've seen that in the past. Stone Cold. We've seen the what, and the guys get that going. But what are your thoughts on that call and response?
So what's interesting is the week before, he kept him from doing it. And I felt like this week they weren't sure.
Yeah.
Should we or should we not?
Mm.
Because the week before he said no. He stayed very serious. He said no. Like there's a couple times he was nope, hold up. And so I felt like that was this one. Except one time he calmed him down again.
Mm-hmm.
But it also tells you the command he has over this. I don't think Austin had that command with the what chant. They just were so happy
No.
yelling what that they almost didn't care what he said. In this case, you talk about the cadence, it makes it real to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's not going to get a microphone and be able to be articulate.
Right.
Everybody's not going to be able to get
Right.
a microphone and just
Right.
be comfortable.
Right.
They're just not going to be perfect with their cadence because his cadence is all over the place. But I think that's what makes him appealing. Because it makes him real. But I love the fact that they were like, yeah, I'm with you. But you talked about subtleties. So I want to compare something really quick. This one compared to last week. Last week he came down, no yeeting, just walking down.
I wonder if
But he had yeet across his sunglasses.
There we go. And I'm glad that's
This week
why I
he did
love
not.
y'all. And I was wondering if y'all would notice that. That's a
This
nice
week he did
subtle.
not.
It's all business.
Now he played
man.
into it a little bit at the very end. So what he did is he went serious last week. Let's go to storytelling.
Right.
He went serious last week. This week he came down serious. He said, all right, play the music again. But he's not up there dancing. He's not leading them in any yeets. He's nothing like that. You got Cole going. You got Pat McAfee going. Jay's not. He's just taking it all in.
Right.
But now he looks more serious than he even did the week before. So now he comes in serious, and at the very end, what does he do? Yeet. So it's kind of like, we still here. I'm going serious, but I'm still here. I'm still me. So I didn't change everything. I love that little subtlety. I love that part where he came in, no colors, no yeet shirt, no pink shirt, no orange shirt, no blue shirt, no fruity pebble shirts, none of that. Like he just came down, I'm Jay. But he also said, look, we in this together. So I love how he put that all together. I love how things are just disconnected. My mom here somewhere.
Right.
It's just random. But I loved it. That's one thing I like about Jay.
Yeah, it's very organic, very natural, and it goes to the point of what was one of the first things Gunther said about Jay. You're a mascot. You're in all these colors. You're all for a show. Now, days away from WrestleMania, he's dressed in all black. He doesn't have a single thing on his shades. He's all business. Now it's time to get going. So I love that subtlety. Another promo where he goes from possibly talking and interacting to the crowd to looking directly at the camera.
Yeah.
And speaking to his opponent. Adelaide, what are your thoughts? Okay, no. This is my question for you, Adelaide, because this is a good one. Because again, this is something that was near and dear to both of us. Last year's WrestleMania, that was Sami Zayn and Gunther.
Right.
And I think they did Sami a disservice by just allowing such a short build for what was a monumental win for him. I think it was like a 2-week, it was possibly 2 to 3 weeks prior to WrestleMania where he beat Gable and went on to face Gunther. Now, even though they were telling the story of Sami being the underdog and that sort of thing, it wasn't officially there until that win, right? Do you think that if we gave Sami that the same amount of time, the same span per se, would that win have been even bigger for Sami Zayn?
I mean, Sami Zayn would have planned that out like 6 months out, right?
For sure.
He would have had their Bible, their script, ready. I think he's just an insane talent, and the thing is, he got signed obviously on ability and this incredible ability to put just a great match together, and all his peers just speak highly of him. But something we discovered, through the Bloodline storyline and through, when they let him, do the that one-off match that, that real blood match with Kevin Owens, is he's so capable of just drawing you in and making you feel like you want to get behind him, right? And that's always been the thing with Sammy, is he is the ultimate underdog. No matter how many times he's won since, you can still see him that way. But that unfortunately just didn't happen. But in this case with Jey, I think I think they're hitting some of the same notes that probably would have happened anyway. I think just going back to that point, I think Jay's character is fresh ultimately. Sammy's tried and true. We've seen it. He's gonna be there. He's he's a lifer at this point, like a Kevin Owens. And with Jay, it's not so much that he's a lifer, but it's just his whole act is just different. It's modern. It's like we're saying very early in the episode. It's got little kids involved, and they don't need to have these deeper conversations that we're having about character arcs and 8-week storylines. They just like the fact that this guy is a good guy and that guy is really evil. That's
right.
what it comes. I think sometimes I am the worst offender of this. Sometimes I get too into the weeds about what we're watching, and ultimately it's like, Ali, you were 6 years old. Well, all you cared about was the Ultimate Warrior, and let's just say you've watched the past episodes. He's not our promo guy,
right? Right. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Can I
Greg?
throw something in there about that Sammy thing?
Yeah.
So let's rewind. I do want to answer your question. Do I think if they gave him that same leeway, same lead way? But here's the difference. This is the World Heavyweight Championship, not the IC Championship. Gunther, if you go 4 to 6 weeks building Sammy against Gunther, that win's bigger for Sammy, but Gunther was moving on to something else.
Yeah.
He comes out weaker if you give him that build. So now you can give him that build as a world champion, as an IC champion who's moving up, which we all know that's what the plan was, right? Get this belt off of him so he can go to the next level. If he goes through a whole 4-week, 6-week, 8-week program, and Sammy, who could, lack of a better term, bury him, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, like a burial of like, I'm going to be so over that when I win, it's going to be huge, but now you don't mean as much. So that's why I think there's a difference.
Okay. I feel that.
But I think in their short amount of time last year, they both did a wonderful job.
No,
honestly,
it was an awesome match.
It almost was more about Gable and Sammy than it was about
Gunther.
Definitely.
And the storytelling was about, we both want to fight him, but man, you can beat him. We all know that they were both underdogs, and that even leads into now. Jay's the underdog, but that story you could even go back to then, a year ago, saying, look, he's a bully, and everybody's gonna be an underdog against him.
Very similar. All right, well, let's go ahead and get some predictions, gentlemen. I know we normally don't do this, but I want to know what Adelaide, are you going with the Yeet man?
I got to, man. Jey Uso, like, imagine an Allegiant Stadium full of people just losing their minds at him winning the championship. It's tailor made for him. I'd be curious if they don't go with that decision. Then what's the long term? That iron's hot. Let's strike.
Great.
Man, I can't. I agree. Like, first off, my heart and the fan in me wants to see Jey win.
Right.
I mean, it just does. It's not going to hurt Gunther. The programming won't be over. But if he loses again, what does he do?
Man.
Yeah.
And I feel like he loses more by losing.
I agree.
And I don't think Gunther gains
That's
a
a good
lot.
point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's all three of us are on the same page, man. We're all going Yeet, man. We're all going Yeet to start off WrestleMania, and I don't know if they're the opener. I'm assuming they're gonna open.
They got to.
You know,
Yeah,
because
that's a good hot match to get started with.
Yeah. But that's us building toward this hopeful wonderful match between Uso and Gunther. Two of my favorites. I love the entrances, I love the characters, and I just love the journey that they took us on. At first it didn't look that way, but they kept throwing little elements, that little subtleties, very intelligent ways of getting Jey to be more of a baby face, and more subtle ways of making Gunther more of a heel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think this program has elevated both of those guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so ladies and gentlemen, we're Talking in the Building podcast once again, a wrestling podcast that focuses solely on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man. Of course, we pontificate on the promo. I'm Adrian. That's how to lead. This is Greg. And we're out. Y'all enjoy WrestleMania.